Welcome to Richer Soul, Dr. G. It's great to have you join us today.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here with you.
And I'm excited to learn from you. We always like to start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
Um, about money, little to nothing. Certainly nothing at school. I grew up in Canada, Windsor, Ontario, and my dad is a real good man, hardworking man. Was a electrician at Ford's, but he grew up during the Great Depression. His parents were right from the old country, Poland, and very, very poor. So all of his subconscious mind and all of his dad's programming was based around lack, saving, being very, very careful, and that money is really hard to get. And but we lived a real good life. I mean, we were middle class. We had everything. It's just that I started working for my own money when I was 13, um, and was ambitious that way. But fundamentally, Pop was always careful about money. Money was something that was hard to get, and because of Dad's worry in that, especially once I started reaching into my teens and I'm working, there was a lot of lack consciousness. And me being me, I can spend money really easy. I never learned how to save till I was nearly 60 years old, in my 50s. So that always upset Dad. So that's basically everything was although we had a really great life, beautiful home, and all of that, it was still, the undercurrent was always lack consciousness.
Did he not teach you to save, or did you just not listen to the lesson?
I think it's mostly I never listened to the lesson because I just wanted what I want. Even if you go into my astrological and numerology charts, it's real easy for me to spend or indulge. It really is. I spent almost all the money I ever made in my life on fancy dinners because I love dining and I love entertaining. And so that's a part of my personality. Dad and that rest of my family were all savers.
It's funny how that happens, but to be honest with you, at least in America, I think most people are spenders. There's very few savers here.
They're programmed to be.
Yeah, they're programmed to be spenders, right?
Yep, that's right. Not to be producer, to be
Do you think you were programmed to be a spender, or it was just something
no,
different?
no. There's a trick with me. I'm not. Society never programmed me in any way, shape, or form because I never participated. By the time I was 13, I was already training, and I completely ignored all school. Even when I went through university and got all my degrees, I still ignored them. And all of my education is living heart to heart under great masters. So I apprenticed. I never read a newspaper in my life. The only reason I know the name of the president is because people talk about, but I wouldn't spend 5 seconds to listen to him or anything. So I don't know anything. I lived off the grid when I moved to California, where I taught as a professional sensei. I lived off the grid and slept on the floor for 11 years. I only study under great masters, and the first series of great masters is all Japanese because of my martial craft. And to become a doctor, I had massive injuries all my life, and I met great master doctors, and then I apprenticed under them. So that's how I grew up. Dad and I, once I failed grade 1, Dad and the family emotionally abandoned me the rest of my life. So Pop and I, we didn't. He's a great guy, but he couldn't relate to me. I was his oldest son, so I went elsewhere to try to find a fatherly figure, and that's how I found my master's. So I'm a very different man.
Did that hold you back, the fact that he kind of emotionally abandoned you?
It held me back in terms of, say, girls, because I didn't know anything about girls. But what it did was it hardened me up to follow my own path, because I was born for what I do. Right, I knew that, but that's like a destiny. So what happened is I'm off by myself, and I train, study, train. Um, I never got involved with a female till I was 27, and all I ever did 5-6 hours a day, 7 days a week, I trained. So that's why I'm such a different kind of a man. I started studying business and abundance and how to succeed about the age of 18 from Tony Robbins. And I began that process at that time. And then that process continued. But I never made any money in the world, regardless of my titles, until I found out about the cognitive dissonance and finally got rid of the cognitive dissonance that was blocking me from making money. And then, of course, now I'm a very wealthy man.
So, what was that was blocking you from making money?
Cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the number one issue for any human being. It's the way your brain is designed. So the first 6 years, full 6 years until you turn 7, your subconscious mind is like a vacuum cleaner, and it's drawing up everything in its environment at a rate of 40 million bits of information per second, and that's none of it belongs to you. The brain is not thinking. It's just mom, dad, and your environment, the house, the radio, the television, everything and anything. So in my consciousness, it was lack consciousness. So money's hard to get. And then with dad, because I failed grade 1, they considered me really stupid. Dad was humiliated in front of his friends. So they abandoned me. My older sister always told me I was a moron. All that stuff is going into my mind before the frontal cortex starts. The frontal cortex activates at the age of 7. But once it activates, it can only use the software that you accumulated the first 6 years. So the subconscious mind, the power ratio, this has the power of 1, subconscious power of 1 million. It's a 1 to 1 million ratio. So when I wanted to go make money, like I would listen to Tony Robbins, you get all fired. This is what happens to hundreds of thousands of people all year round. They go to the big boys and they get all fired up and they got their plans and they might even have a couple of MBAs. Doesn't mean nothing. As soon as they start, 3 months later, 4 months later, it all crashes, because there's a sentence, an imprint, or a belief in the subconscious that says it can't do that. And it has the power of 1 million, and the frontal cortex only has the power of 1. So that's the same thing when you watch people with their New Year's resolutions. Doesn't make any difference. I don't care if they talk with their affirmations 100 million a day. They won't beat it. You have to eliminate cognitive dissonance. That's what I do with depth healing. I can disintegrate cognitive dissonance. And then the once your subconscious mind is your friend and it's endorsing what you want to do, you'll just roll. No problem.
How easy is it to do that?
Real easy with depth healing. I can surgically go straight into your subconscious, find the exact downloads and when you received them and from who, disassemble them using destructive interference waves. That's my tool from quantum physics, is destructive and constructive interference waves. and you go into the imprint or the download, and I start to disassemble it because it'll have all kinds of entanglements. So, because see, when let's say your dad is telling you that you're a moron, you're never going to be nothing, because he's mad, he's having a bad day. He says that to his son or his daughter, and what he doesn't know is their subconscious mind believes that because dad said that. So now it's in there. Now, at the time he said it, the dog was barking, mom's cooking a really spicy, uh, strong, odorous type meal in the kitchen, and the radio's playing a particular song, and the baby's crying in the other room. At 40 million bits of information per second, all of that is entangled with the sentence from your dad that you're a moron and you're never going to be able to do anything. So what happens is, as once you're an adult, any environmental trigger like that smell, that same smell, can activate that sentence, that belief. It's all triggers. So what I do is I go in and I remove all of the entanglements that are showing up in your field at that time, relative to what we're talking about, relative to your problem. And eventually I bring it down to zero and it's gone. When I say it's gone, I mean it's gone, period, end of story. And in the same process, I'm using constructive interference waves that build their consciousness up. So we're taking the negative or the fear out, and we're putting courage and higher consciousness in. And then now in my case, I had 27 full years of being programmed in a negative way about money, because my Japanese sensei that I became the protege of, I used to worship that guy. I didn't know that he was lying and using us for his own ambitions. And he always told us that samurai consider money like filth. Only women, only the wife handles money. A samurai won't even touch it. All he cared about was money, but we didn't know that. We were just kids. So I worshiped that guy. I took everything he said as gospel. So that went on top of all the first 6 years of life as a kid. So it took me quite a while to get rid of the cognitive dissonance for money. I had to get a hold of a really great doc, Larry Habersky in Georgia, and he's the one who cleared me of that. And then bada bing, bada boom, I don't have any problem making money at all. Receiving money, no problem. Saving money.
Do the people that you work with have to know what that trigger was or what was going on? Or
No, I find it. I'm like a detective. What you do, what the client does is they come to me, they say, I can't ever make any money. Or they'll say, every time I get to a certain amount of money, I lose it. And then, so I go in, get a hold of the name of their mom, their dad, and so forth, find out as much conscious information as I can. And then we start to go into they have their eyes closed. The trick is the questions, the wording that I use. They repeat that question, that opens the files in their subconscious, because everything in the subconscious is invisible. That's why it's subconscious. So the trick with me that took me a long time to learn how to master this stuff is to be able to go in there like a detective, locate it, remove it. How do we know if it worked? The results. Everything is completely results oriented. Does that make
interesting.
sense?
It does. One of the things I've noticed, though, kind of in these spaces, you mentioned Tony Robbins. There's so many other people out there. Everyone says they're going to be able to do something like your sensei. He said, "Oh, I can teach you this." But how can you discern who's truthful and who, in a sense, isn't telling you the truth in these
Oh,
types
that's
of
easy.
things.
Because of my ability with to talk to the field. By talking to the field means the field cannot lie and the field cannot be wrong. So um, I'm a I learned, and it took me over a decade, but I became very, for lack of a better term, mastered self kinesiology so that I can talk to the field. So if a guy's lying, I can find it. Or if he's lying to himself, I can find it. Whatever there is in the consciousness, I can find it. As long as I know to ask the question. If I don't know to ask the question, I don't get the right answer. The question is enormously important because you will, they know in quantum physics now, you will see or find what you look for. So the question, very, very, very important. And then I will get the answer. So I can tell, like, I research that all the time. There was a new client of mine, and he was buying into this metaphysical school. And I checked that school yesterday. It's all hogwash, just a bunch of nonsense, complete nonsense. So much stuff, it's all nonsense. But they don't know that. It's ever
No,
since the
well,
beginning of time.
and more than likely, because you mentioned you don't pay attention to what everyone else is paying attention to, in a sense.
Yeah, not at all.
At least in the United States, the amount of marketing and the quality of marketing is unbelievable,
Mm-hmm.
to the point that it's not necessarily the best person at doing something that wins. It's the
Mm-hmm.
best marketer that wins, who actually can figure out how to, um, I don't know what the right way to say it, but how to find those triggers in your subconscious to suck you into what they have to offer you and take your money.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it's you have to realize it's the pre-programming, and they're very sophisticated. Just like I
Mhm.
know a lot about the mind, so do they. And like take cognitive warfare for instance. If you research cognitive warfare, marketers are using that, and all what that means is it's highly sophisticated ways of manipulating your perception, and then they instill um, things that normally you would consider immoral, now it's moral. Things that you would consider disgusting, now you consider it nice. They manipulate their mind, and the programming is already preset quite easily. Most of the society, 99% of them, they're all programmed to comply. So you'll see a simple example of this is the movie Mrs. Doubtfire. Okay, Mrs. Doubtfire, everybody thinks of that as a real funny comedy. It's not. It's actually a pathetic, sickening way of manipulating human, especially the male population. If you watch carefully, and I'll bet what's his face, what Robin Williams didn't know about it either. But if you sit back and look at that, what you're looking at is a man who is a father is humiliated as a complete incompetent buffoon unless he dresses up like a lady. As soon as he dresses up like a lady, he has credibility, he's wise, everything's cool. And the undercurrent for cognitive warfare is that a man is incompetent and not wise and needs to follow or be led by a woman. That was a long time ago now, that there's been all kind of undercurrent. So now when you watch young men these days, you can see that whole program, how far it's taken them. They're in so much. So people don't recognize it because they don't know what cognitive warfare is. They just see the frontal cortex is only operating 5% of the day. It's not. People think they're really smart. No. All you're looking at is consciousness very, very, very low. They don't even know they have an inner dialogue or anything. And then you just, with marketing, you can just play people like a musical instrument if you know what you're doing. And expert marketers, of course, they do know what they're doing. It's a science.
It is a science. It's been going on for over 100 years, and people don't realize that much of what you do today or what you believe in was created over 100 years ago.
Yes.
And when you start to go back and see who was involved and how they did it and the ways that they did things, it's kind of shocking and surprising. You
Oh,
mentioned that you tap into the field. Can you explain what you mean by the field?
yeah. Nowadays, they've got a fancy new device, and I always forget the name of it, but it's in the medical field, and they have learned and can see that your thinking is not occurring in your head. The thinking is in the field outside of you. The brain is nothing but an antenna system. So the 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 thinking, the thoughts, or the information is out here in what it looks like thin air. Everything is nothing but a field, and it's fields upon fields upon fields upon fields, called morphic fields. So Einstein said a long time ago, the sole governing agency of the molecule is the field. So that was when quantum physics was just being discovered. So you and I and everything you see is actually energy. It's energy fields. Nowadays, they know that there's no such thing as an atom that's a thing. It's like, it looks like a little tornado of a vortex of energy. So on the one side, when you see a physical world, or you touch, that's true, but it's only true at a particular level. It's all energy, everything. It's all frequencies. So the information, you and I, like right now, you're looking at me, I'm looking at you. Even if you were on Pluto, I can go directly into your mind and your body and alter your physiology or change things or heal you across any distance, because the distance is irrelevant. It's a field. And the mathematics that to prove that has been written and peer reviewed and accepted by Nassim Haramein, the great physicist that founded the resonance. So the only difference between me and someone like Nassim, I can functionally use that. I call it applied quantum physics. So all of the information about your body, your nervous system, your subconscious, your programming, your karma, all of that is in the field, and it's accessible if you know how to do it. And please, when I'm saying these things, don't ever think I have some kind of power. It's not. This is just a skill that I have, and I act as a doctor. I am a conduit, just a channel. I don't have any kind of power, so please don't misunderstand that. Nothing at all.
Is this field that you're talking about, is that the same thing as the 0 point field, or is that a different
0 point
type of?
field, when they say 0 point field, no, it's not the same. 0 point
Okay.
field, all the other fields exist at different frequency levels within the 0 point field. So think of 0 point field as like the water molecules of the Pacific Ocean. And then if you're at the top of the ocean, just above the water, that's a strata. You
Hmm.
go 5 inches into the water, that's a strata. You go down 6 feet, 20 feet, 1,000 feet. Each one of those belts is a strata. And that they're all part of the field. The 0 point field is the water molecules, and all the different depths we can think of as different strata, and each strata contains its own kind of information. Okay, so you have, for instance, a human field. Let's say we have the common global human field of consciousness, and that's a different consciousness than, say, the consciousness of birds. And then there's a consciousness for the plants. If you want to see the research on that, you go to the Heart Math Institute. Director of research is Roland McCready, and the research library is free. You just go on Google, and you'll see now how they're documenting, because they have the instrumentation to measure the consciousness of the plants and the trees, the sounds they make, the fact that they think, and then they hold biologically relevant information. When I'm talking about the field, your consciousness conjoins with mine and all the other people, and the only difference is with you and I is I can tie in to my client directly. That's my job. That's how I help them. Did that make sense?
It did. How long does it usually take when you work with somebody? I mean, is it just one or two problems, or people have multiple problems on top of layers, or does it all
Every
depend?
everybody everything there's no such thing as an event. Okay, so let's say we think of an event. So let's say because I was originally trained as a chiropractor. So let's say you're working out in the yard and all of a sudden you get a kink in your neck. So we think the person that gets a kink in the neck, they think that's an event. And then they go to the local chiropractor and he makes an adjustment, and the kink is gone, and they think that's an event. No, there's no such thing as an event. All things are dependently arising, dependently ceasing. That's the highest truth and the biggest mathematical equation you'll ever see. Everything is dependently arising, dependently ceasing. And it's all a process, so everything's entangled. So when I get a client, some clients' issues are very simple, very simple. And in one session, it's gone. Let's say they get pressure headaches, and all it is the I examine their skull. Now I'm doing this anywhere in the world. I have no clients here in Thailand. I do this as a distance healer. So I examine their skull, and in the cranium, the cranial sutures are not breathing. When you breathe, the cranial sutures have a micro movement. If they don't move with your breath, it'll develop headaches. So I just find the cause of why are the cranial sutures not breathing, and I find a real high level of anxiety, future fear. I remove it. The cranial sutures start to breathe. The headache's gone. Case closed. Other people, like if they're like me, and they have a lot of negative experiences that were laced with emotion. Anything that's laced with emotion is really cemented into consciousness. So that might, depending on what it's about, might take me months or even a year. Depends on
Hmm.
the person. Now, post-traumatic stress syndrome, I've always been able to remove an entire post-traumatic stress syndrome in one session. I've never ever had any kind of post-traumatic stress syndrome that I can't remove in one session. Yet, I've never had, no matter how bad it is.
What are the things then that take so long to kind of unwind? Is it because someone went through a lot throughout childhood, or
Yeah.
what would cause? Okay.
So feature this, okay? I'll give you. We'll use me as the example, because I did 30 years under Tony Robbins, Brendan Burchard, Bob Proctor, John Assaraf. I mean, I know every word those guys say inside and out. I couldn't make a dime. And I worked hard as a dog. I'm a very, I was a, I'm a top flight chiropractor, according to a lot of other chiropractors. I was a world class martial arts specialist. I taught the United States military and everything. And I never could make a dime. Didn't matter what my titles were. So what it took 8 years to remove the cognitive dissonance for me to be able to make money. Why is that? Well, first start off with the childhood, the first 6 years, coming with my dad and the idea that money's very, very hard to get. Only the greatest, most highest educated people ever become wealthy. I need to just work real hard and labor work, which I did as a young man, and that was a belief system. I'm a martial art student of a Japanese man who was lying to us because the only thing he cared about was money, and built us a fake samurai ideology that I bought into. Sort of like down south, if you get some kind of religious cult,
Hmm.
and the cult programs those people to believe in certain things, and having sexual relations is a sin, and whatever garbage they put in their mind. Well, I was with Sensei and believed every word that man said, literally, for a minimum initial 8 years. 7 days a week, I was under him and listened to him, worshiped him, believed him. So you've got my childhood, and I don't know anything about. The only thing I know is that I work labor work so that I could earn enough money to pay my classes under Sensei. Sensei is programming me against money, that money's dirty. Samurai have no regard for it. If you see $1 on the ground, a samurai would never bend over to pick it up because it's beneath his dignity. I believed all that, and I'm lacing it with emotion. So all that programming had to be disassembled. Now, it's not just the sentence. You have to unprogram all of the entanglements, the social entanglements, the emotional, the psychological, the value system, all of it. So that took a long time. And if I get clients like that, well, I'm designed, depth healing's designed to do it as long as they stick with me. If they don't stick with me for the duration, I can't. I can only go in as long as they want to do it. The thing is, if they do it, all of a sudden they make money. Everything works. Or I break a financial ceiling. I do that for a lot of people. Let's say they reach 200,000 a year, they can't go farther. They never have. They will now, because I'll find out what that ceiling is and I'll shatter it, and then they just go. And I do that. My success rate is high.
Well, congratulations on that. You've
I
mentioned a
love it.
lot of people, and I've been to many of those people, Tony Robbins, Brendan Burchard. And one of the things I learned when I went to all of them is the average person within a week or two after leaving did nothing.
That's right.
And when I say the average, 97%.
That's right.
And I was always shocked by how little action people took. Um, and I never could figure out why.
That's just cognitive.
And then there's someone else who talks about the quantum field. I wasn't sure how your work compared to his, Joe Dispenza.
Yeah, I know. I know Mr. Dispenza. Yeah.
Okay.
The difference between Joe and I, we have a lot of similarities. The difference is I take care of the client and do everything for them. And in Joe's method, you have to do all kinds of meditations. You have to do them with complete consistency. You have to make the time. You have to be able to generate the necessary levels of consciousness. most people that meditate, they actually can't meditate any more than I can fly. If I jump off this balcony, I'll go straight down. Um, Most people that meditate, they might have meditated for 20 years. If you check, they can't count 10 breaths in a row without their mind, mind interfering. And that's because of the nature of mind. Okay. Mind is a field, and it flows. It's got nothing to do with your brain. The brain, so the thoughts come in here, they go out the back. And that's why all meditation methods, the first thing that Joe's got to do is say, if they're going to meditate, you sit and you watch the thoughts come and go. Because the first thing you have to understand is the thoughts aren't yours. They are just coming and going. The brain is only an antenna system tuned to particular vibration. So Joe would explain that Einstein, the wave band that he was picking up information was, I think it was infrared. I originally met Joe and did one of his seminars in 2004 in Houston. I know his material forwards and backwards. The difference is, with me, you come to see me in condition A, you leave in condition B. With something like Joe's is beautiful, but it can take you months or years, and with me, it can take you minutes to a few hours. That's the fundamental difference. I'm sort of like the hairdresser. You come with a bad hair day, you leave and you look like a model. With Joe, what you're doing is you come with a bad hair day, and he teaches you how to treat your hair, and then how to comb it, and then how to use the special curlers. You got to do all that stuff yourself. And you get a percentage of people that are successful, and all the rest of them don't have any success at all, because it's very hard. It is not easy. If it was easy, every single Zen monk, every single Tibetan Lama, every single Chinese, every last one of them would be enlightened. They're not enlightened in any way, shape, or form. Joe's not enlightened. I'm not enlightened. The only guy that's enlightened that I can give you an example of, for people who will know his name, is Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle is enlightened. The rest of them, Sadhguru, none of them are enlightened. Enlightened is different. It's completely different.
What about Michael Singer?
I don't know.
Okay.
I never heard of him.
He's similar but different than Eckhart Tolle.
Oh,
Yeah, Michael, his thing is, look, the world's been around for what, 10 billion years? All kinds
long
of
time.
all kinds of things have happened for this moment in time to happen, for you to be born, for you to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And here you are in this amazing planet, in this massive universe, after however many billions of years, it doesn't matter. And you demand that the universe behaves the way you want it. And if it doesn't, you get mad. He's like, are you nuts? The universe doesn't care about you. It's doing what it does. Let go.
That's very.
It is, but you know what? I struggle to let go.
Yeah, of course. Of course, we all do. Me too. That's why I'm not enlightened. See, the whole reason enlightenment means all people who are enlightened. The enlightenment is always 100% different. There's no such thing as enlightenment means enlightenment. There's a couple of commonalities. One commonality is inner dialogue is stopped permanently. That is the first demarcation mark that enlightenment has occurred. An enlightened person, the self has been disengaged. When the self is disengaged, instead of doing, if you're being, it's like looking at a tree. The tree isn't doing something, so An enlightened person is actually alive. Anything below enlightenment, we're not alive. The body's alive, but you're not alive. When you look at a tree, or you look at me, or I'm looking at you, the mind intervenes in between. And it has all of its titles and its definitions and its ideas. And that's a big tree, that's a little tree, that's an apple tree, and it's got all the information. None of that has anything to do with anything. To an enlightened person, enlightened person is just experiencing the universe, the world, whatever there is, as it is. And there's no loss of energy. So there's enormous amount of energy, and then there's immediately a causeless joy and a causeless love, because that's our actual reality. But everything else is an overlay. So like Eckhart Tolle said, what you are when you die, you are what remains after you die. And everything else is with you. So the mind is the anchor for the self, and the self is the thing that's resisting letting go. Self is, and then as far as controlling the universe or controlling the world, the only way you can do anything like that is through morphic fields, because universal intelligence only says one word, okay. And it will say okay to the majority. That's why they make the pandemic and all that other nonsense. They create a morphic field, which means a collective. They use the fundamental frequency of fear to unite all of them. And then, because it's a massive field that's all on the same page of fear and worry, the universe says okay, and it endorses it. If you take a large body that's consistent enough, that's why they have to use masks. They use all kinds of markers to consistently maintain the fear, because the field will change and the universe will say okay. So if you can make a constant field with the high frequencies of love or gratitude with enough population, the universe will say okay, and everything will change. That's how this all works.
Do you have a sense of where the world is right now in all those
I
things?
sure do. You want me to tell you?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if you look out your window, do you see any 5G towers?
Not directly, but I know they're around here.
Did you ask for any of those?
Technically, no.
You know that they're all weaponized, and that 5G is the frequency for, if you go to Google and you look up, all of the patents are all public record for controlling your mind. They can fry your brain right out of your head, because your brain's made out of water and oil. The entire thing is a weapons system. Now, did almost almost the entire population of the world get vaccinated?
Many of them did.
Yeah, over 1 billion of them are dead now. Does McDonald's and Burger King, are they going out of business?
No.
No. How about Monsanto? Are they going out of business?
No.
Uh-huh. If you go into Montana and places like that, where they have the big cattle farms and all of the cattle are being slaughtered and burned, and the farmers are being bought out, and all of that stuff, does anybody think that that's really great, so that they can raise the prices of? So in other words, while all these people are saying, consciousness, we're awakening. No, folks. You have to look at the majority, okay? The majority. Yes, you have higher consciousness in pockets where people who are conscious or interested in consciousness are doing work. And the rest of the population has the consciousness of a salamander or a rock. And they simply comply, and they will be, they're hell bent on the elimination of all surplus humans, and they're doing a great job. It's waging very strongly. So the answer is this: when you look at the wars, they just took a shot at the president right in front of all of his own secret forces. The entire United States is on the hairpin of all out civil war. I mean, so is the light winning? No, hell no. Otherwise, Monsanto would go out of business. The 5G towers would be gone. All of the vaccinations, which, by the way, I just saw the forensic report, which is official in the courts. Since COVID, 73.1% of all deaths are directly vaccine related and or associated. I mean, you have to understand morphic fields. You have to understand majorities. Over here in Thailand, any business you go into, all of the employees are still wearing masks because they just comply. The masks are laced in graphene oxide. You know what graphene oxide is? It conducts electricity. So if you turn on a certain frequency and graphene oxide is in your bloodstream, you drop dead. And the graphene oxide has a shelf life, so they have to keep giving you the mask. Do you know how much organization? You're a professional businessman. Now, if you think of the amount of organization it takes just to host a wedding, imagine how much organization and money it takes to take a city like New York, blanket the entire thing in 5G towers, all hooked up to specific control centers, and then you think about all of the hospitals being bought out and all that stuff's controlled for the vaccine. Do you know how much organization you're looking at? You know what it takes to blanket an entire sky in chemtrails? I mean, and then people say, "Oh, we're waking up." Yeah, that's good. I'm glad.
So what do we do?
What you do is you can attach yourself to outfits like myself. I do morphic field. I can do morphic field physics, which means I can influence thousands of people at one time to clear their subconscious at the same time. So if you go to my website, you'll see that I run a full moon. It's a free full moon ceremony, and I bring in hundreds of people. And that morphic field has power, and it's piped in directly, supported directly from the great compassionate light. And we are punching a hole in the negative field. You can go to the Heart Math Institute and join them. They have something like probably 350 to 400, 500,000 people. They do, pardon me, heart meditation. And the heart meditation only takes 5 minutes. 5 minutes. It creates a morphic field based on love. And they do events, and they are projecting that into the field. There are any number of organizations or people that are awake and are trying to build fields, strong, beautiful fields of high frequency. And then the other thing you do is you stay away. You have to police what's going into your mind. Don't watch the news. There's no truth in the news at all. Nothing. I have a lady, a friend of mine in Atlanta, Georgia, worked for CNN in Hawaii, and she finally got fed up and quit. She said all they do is, these organizations and people, they come in and they have like a script, like they just want to make a bunch of nonsense, and they just script the whole thing as if it's real. It's not real at all. Nothing in the news is. You have to understand you're being manipulated. So you unplug yourself, and you carefully choose what you're listening to, what you're looking at. You have to detox. Get a hold of someone like myself. I will detox all of the trash out of your subconscious that keeps you down like a little mouse running around trying to scrape up a living, while those politicians, you have any idea who they actually are? I wouldn't walk across a room to meet any president or any. Now, if they were Lee Kuan Yew, I'd listen and I'd go up and I'd ask for his autograph. There's people are. You have to understand what you're in the Third World War now. It's a cognitive war, and they use you as a puppet. That's how they do all this stuff. They shut down the entire world in a matter of days. As far as COVID goes, I get rid of that stuff this fast. I have for so many people. It's children's play, but they don't show it as children. The thing that's not children's play is when you get injected with nanotechnology that goes through the blood-brain barrier and establishes a Bluetooth chip in your brain, and they can look at the Bluetooth chip is still transmitting in the cadavers. You got to understand this stuff. This is the arena. See, in the military, you learn if you want to survive, if you want to be a player, you have to understand the arena. Now, I'm a great fan of Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger constantly say, you must understand your circle of competence. That's your arena. Now, this gentleman shows you how to make money in the world and talks about wealth and abundance. That's an arena. It's coexisting in the greater, in the battlefield that wants to use you as like a dangle a carrot in front of you until you get old and die. And the system is made for you to fail. It's not made for you to win. You have to know that. If you know that, then you can beat it. If you don't know it, you'll never beat it. It'll beat you because it's way the hell smarter and more sophisticated than people. Like Charlie Munger will say, one of the worst things is to think we're smarter than we are. That's we call that in the military unconscious incompetence. And nothing will get you wiped out faster than unconscious incompetence. Did that make? I'm sorry, I got
No,
off.
it's fine.
I get rolling there.
That's quite all right. I think that was helpful. Thank you very much for sharing. What's your secret to living an abundant life?
My secret is that I'm supported directly by the divine. I make my relationship that way. And wealth consciousness. Wealth consciousness is the most essential thing for you to make and establish. As long as you have wealth consciousness, it's all quantum physics. It's a matter of resonance. The world, the universe operates on resonance. So if you have a wealth consciousness, that's your frequency. Therefore, wealth will come to you.
What did you learn later in life that you wish you would have learned sooner?
How to make my relationship with the divine and about cognitive dissonance. If I had known about cognitive dissonance, I would have probably been a multi-millionaire by now. All those 30 years, I lived in a state of rage, and I was as poor as a church mouse, no matter how hard I worked. And I didn't understand the mechanism. Just a matter of resonance.
If you were to give an 18-year-old one piece of wisdom, what would it be?
What first and foremost, learn absolutely nothing from AI. Stay as far away from AI as you can. Find out, seek out living masters in the areas of life that you are interested in, and learn directly from them as an apprentice, just the same way as I did. Never learn from a machine. Learn from a human being and
And that makes
masters.
sense.
Masters, not some idiot, not some fake. Don't worry about academic education. It's not an education in the first place anyway. All it is a bunch of memorized nonsense. You'll learn more if you read your own books, and then you get a great master. You learn that way, and that, I'll tell you, you'll come out on.
If people would like to learn more about you, check you out, and say, hey, is this guy for real? What's the best way to do that?
It's real easy. I make everything easy. You just go to depthhealing.org. It's one word. It's my website, depthhealing.org, and everything is there in black and white. It's real simple. You can schedule with me. You'll see all my events. I do 2 collectives a month, and I do the big full moon Seba. I have my privates, and then you'll see like YouTube depth healing, social media stuff. My admin Johnny takes care of all that. And then to talk to me privately, you just get on my WhatsApp, and if you talk to me or you send me a message, I'm the one that answers you, and I'm always available to my people. I take care of you myself. No, there is nobody else in between me and you. Okay. Now I'll do my best for you.
Awesome. And we'll put those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much, Rocky. I love that name, Rocky. That's a great name. Thank you very much. I enjoyed this.
Thanks for checking out this unedited video of the Richer Soul podcast. You can find the full episode along with all the back episodes at richersoul.com. This podcast is brought to you by Profit Comes First, where we help business owners to have a more profitable and growing business so they can live the life of their dreams. Check that out as well wherever you listen to all this content.